As someone who likes to play Diablo, I've always been a fan of the hack and slash genre. Such games tend to be a lot of fun and typically offer a co-op campaign, so giving Grim Dawn Forgotten Gods a chance was an easy choice for me. From a technical standpoint, the game makes a great first impression. You have many graphical settings which can be tweaked. Some of them can be quite taxing and will probably force weaker systems to their knees, but most of these power-hungry features are subtle and the game still looks quite nice even without them. It supports both 21:9 and 32:9 aspect ratios and resolutions for those of you who want to experience the game in ultra-wide. The game looks objectively beautiful and features a rotatable camera as well as a weather system which doesn't really affect the gameplay, but looks really cool. The character creation is as minimalistic as it can be. It's a small menu on which you choose either male or female and give them a name. That's it. Class selections come later in the game as you progress through the story. Customizations are rare in such games and make little sense due to the fact that your character is quite small on the screen and most of what you will be able to see from him or her is their equipment. However, it does make a negative impression that it is not possible to simply make your helmet invisible. So you end up having the choice between changing its appearance into that of another helmet with the help of an NPC who can change its appearance by casting some kind of transmutational magic, or simply not wearing a helmet at all. But the latter of the two is a really bad move due to the stat losses which you will suffer from that decision. As the game starts, you will soon begin to notice that it's quite similar to Diablo. It's also quite different in many ways. These differences are both good and bad depending on how you want to look at them. It will quickly become obvious that the developers' funds were limited and some things end up suffering from it. Most of the conversations are not voice acted, which means that the player is forced to read quite a bit of text in order to have a rough idea of what is happening. This is a huge problem for me since having to read is slow and cannot really be done along the way. Think of the many conversations your character has with other ones while walking around and killing monsters in Diablo 3. You find books and other things which also trigger a recording to play telling you more about the lore of the world, while you almost never have to stop killing monsters in order to listen to that. This is not possible when dealing with written text. I have yet to see someone who can read and fight monsters at the same time. It means that the player is forced to choose between playing or stopping and reading something. Usually my wife and I ended up ignoring most written conversations and lore pieces and simply moved on to the gameplay. This resulted in lots of confusion when it came to the overall plot of the game. Even now I feel as though I have been playing the sequel of a previous game and most of the story was developed there. This is definitely not a good thing. What I can tell you is that we were killing monsters from place to place and doing almost random side quests and main quests. Now you can see from my description that I pretty much have no idea what's happening. It goes a bit further than that, but all in all, the story is just terrible. The storytelling is ineffective. The gameplay on the other end is quite good. Not long after you have started the game, you will be faced with the challenge of choosing one of the 36 possible classes. This will also be the first time you'll be confronted by the game's cryptic descriptions of things. Every description is vague and filled with non-essential nonsense. If you want to know specific things about a class or a skill, get ready to read through several lines of general nonsense before getting to some useful information. I can imagine there are some people out there who love to read about the origin of a skill they're about to unlock or other lore related stuff, but for the vast majority of players this information is not what should be presented first. As a player, I want to read what a skill does and how much damage, healing, etc. it will offer. There should be a division between non-essential information and skill-related stats. But in many cases, there is none and it's quite annoying. Diablo does this so much better. On the other end, the game does feature a significant amount of depth in terms of gameplay when you consider that every character can choose a second class in which to specialize as well. This gives room to experimentation with a ton of variables and you can create truly unique heroes. In addition to that, the game features devotion constellations, which are an additional way to add skills and stats to your character. In order to unlock such constellation points, you have to discover the many shrines hidden throughout the game's world and purify them. And speaking of discovery, I would be remiss if I did not mention the huge world which your characters will traverse. The game dwarfs Diablo easily. Every single map is huge and filled with small secrets. You will constantly discover breakable walls and other similar things which will reveal hidden areas with small or large rewards waiting for you. The maps are so big that it would sometimes take more than an hour to uncover each one of them completely. Something that I found slightly annoying was the fact that when playing with another player, the map discovery is not shared. everyone discovers it for themselves, and so if I have uncovered some fog of war on the left, my wife, for example, would see that part is still dark on her map and she would have to go there as well in order to see what's behind it. We are working as a team, we should be sharing map discovery, that's all I'm saying. It's very annoying and it should be possible to share. I must also mention that the locations are quite varied and offer many things worth seeing. The fact that you can rotate the camera at will means that the map has many details which can be hidden quite well, but it also means that it was never designed with one exclusive angle of approach in mind. This can lead to not being able to see what you're attacking at times because there's something cutting off your line of sight. Due to the slight isometric point of view, you will always be at a disadvantage when going downwards because you will first be able to see your enemies when they're closer than if you were going upwards. This can be remedied by turning the camera so down becomes up effectively, but it is still a bit annoying. The defeated enemies will stay dead for the duration of the session, but this can cause other issues as well. Since the game has factions with which you must build up reputation in order to gain access to some of their quests, as well as some other items which you want in order to craft even better ones, you will have to do some repeatable quests for them. The issue with that is that those quests will often require you to kill a special named enemy, which you might have killed already, and now it's no longer there. This means that the only way to finish the quest is to go out of the game and enter again so that the session can be reset. This could have been resolved much better. A simple courtesy of respawning the specific boss and some of his guards would have been really helpful. Strangely enough, I had a few very strange instances where exactly this had happened, leaving me even more confused. So effectively, for some quests, the mob will be reset, and for others it will not. More often than not, it will not be reset. Now the negative thing about that is that everything else revives as well on the whole map, and you have to plow through all the hordes of enemies until you can reach what you wanted, rather than just going through your cleaned pathways and just, kill whatever needs to be killed, instead of dealing with everything again. And speaking of quests, the only way to know if someone has a quest to give is to go to them and visually check. You will not see a quest marker on the map or minimap indicating that someone wants to give you a quest. For example, how you would do in other games when they have an exclamation mark over their head and you look at the map and you see a bunch of exclamation marks, you know, aha, there's a quest. This is very stupid here. What is also stupid is that many quests are hidden behind reputation walls, meaning that you will not have those quests available before you reach a certain standing with a certain faction. I mean, I get it, you have to give the player something to grind towards. However, given that these games are in essence a grind fest already, it feels like an unnecessary thing to do. Not to mention that being able to do repeatable reputation quests also requires a certain amount of reputation to begin with. It's actually a reward for you. So before you can get to that part where you repeat special quests in order to gain more reputation, you are expected to simply kill named monsters and improve your standing with a faction in this way first. So at first, your standing is so low that they won't even give you the repeatable quests, and the only way to get it high enough for that is to figure out by reading, because there is actually a special codex, what kind of enemies this faction hates. For example, they hate undeads. Then you go to a location where you can find lots of undeads, and when you kill named undeads, your reputation with that faction increases slightly. So you grind that first until you get high enough to be able to do repeatable quests. You grind those and so forth. These things annoy me, but to be fair, they are not that bad. In all fairness, you will have to play this game like crazy anyway if you want to level up and get nice gear. The legendary stuff starts dropping at level 50 and above, which takes a while to reach. Before that, you will be swimming in shitty items, and I mean swimming. The game drops stuff like crazy. It would not be that big of a problem if your inventory was not limited. It drops not only items, but a ton of materials which are used for crafting and enchanting. Most of them are actually pieces which need to be combined. These items are so numerous that my inventory was half full at all times with these things. Not only that, but it's a pain in the ass to manage as well. You see, those pieces need to be combined to form a greater piece, so 3 tiny pieces of cloth form a slightly larger one. Luckily, there is a button that combines all available parts. The question is, why not do that automatically as soon as I loot them? And don't get me started on moving items to your stash. Prepare to spend 5 minutes clicking at each of them and moving them over. There are no functions to simply transport them automatically. The game offers a special filter which will make a certain quality of items invisible to the player so that your screen doesn't get cluttered with crappy items every time you kill a monster. So that's pretty nice. And by the way, the colors of the items, which are supposed to depict their quality, are completely arbitrary and go against the tried and true established norm. Let me give you a taste. White items are the lowest quality, as would be expected. Golden items are the second worst in the game. Yes, in other words, gold is shit. Green items are crappy too, the equivalent of blue items in most games. The stuff you wear as a noob before you find something that's somewhat decent. Blue items are actually epic quality and one of the best you can get. Purple are legendary and therefore generally the best items. So you can see the colors are all over the place and seem absolutely inadequate. This is definitely the first time I have ever seen golden items being such terrible quality. The bottom of the barrel. So yes, the game showers you in way too many items and unfortunately almost everything is shit. This wouldn't be so bad if your inventory wasn't constantly full, forcing you to return to town and sell everything all the time. In this case, less would have been more. I know I'm complaining about too many items and it's a strange thing to do. And some of you are probably thinking that I could just ignore the items, but the problem is that in such a game you are constantly hunting for minor stat improvements in order for your character to continuously become stronger. So you have to check every item in order to ensure that you are not missing a small improvement to your gear. Let's talk about the combat. I did mention that there are numerous options to develop your character. It helps that the game provides you with plenty of opportunities to reset your various stat points. The only thing you cannot do is change your classes. You can go online and search for the best builds, but I personally find that to be boring. If you want to have fun, just play the game as we did and do your own thing. You're expected to replay it as you would with Diablo, for example, and other such similar games. So you can create a second character and try something else if you're not that happy with your first one. The first time should be without external influences. Trust me, the game is more fun this way. That is, unless you have an affinity towards these things. My wife is a physicist and she went crazy on the number crunching. At some point, I was walking around doing quests while she was planning her progression and crunching numbers for a very long time. I used to call it playing in the game's menus, because that's literally what she was doing. Still, this goes to show you that Grim Dawn can offer a good playing field for people who just want to kill stuff and get drops, as well as people who love to strategize. One way or another, at some point your hero will become a merciless killing machine. The game's combat is quite interesting and a lot of fun. What surprised me was that for all of its complexity, the character builds would mostly focus on just a few skills which you would boost. In comparison to Diablo, where my sorcerer had quite a few skills in the end, here my spellbinder only had one main attack skill and several buffs. Most of the additional effects were passive and would trigger based on a chance. Strangely enough, I found this to be quite appealing. You can spread out and have more skills if you want, but then you will be a jack of all trades and a master of none. Or you can go glass cannon like my character, whatever you like. The one thing which kept annoying me was the fact that the game features an aggressive line of sight system. Any obstacle, no matter how tiny and insignificant, will block your attacks. Since the map is very detailed, there are so many obstacles of this kind. You fire an enemy only to realize that a tiny stick in the middle of the road is blocking your powerful magic. Naturally, this restriction does not apply to the enemies completely, who almost always hit you through all kinds of obstacles. This definitely needs to be improved upon. It inhibits the fun and doesn't feel like it's adding anything of value to the gameplay. Besides that, the combat is great fun and there is a huge variety of enemies you can encounter. You have to explore dungeons, you have NPCs to interact with, some of which can become your enemies, depending on your actions. You also have special instances for which you need to craft a costly skeleton key. Those instances are a substantial challenge because they allow for one attempt per session. If you should die, you may not enter again. That sucks, because it also means that you cannot reclaim your corpse and restore some of your lost experience. Oh yes, you lose experience upon death, but it's not so bad. I've covered almost every important point except the game's ending. Don't worry, I won't spoil anything, especially because there's literally nothing to spoil. You know how in Diablo you end up fighting a huge monster, then there are NPCs celebrating the victory and you even get a cinematic explaining what this has achieved? And you know how after you have defeated the final boss, the game presents you with a message telling you that you have defeated it and you can either start on a higher difficulty or try some bounties, etc. Well, Grim Dawn does almost none of that. Once you return the last quest to the NPC which gave it to you, they will tell you that you did well, as they would for any other quest as a matter of fact. There's no cinematic, there is no message, there are no changes to the game's world, nothing. You just never get any more main quests. That's it. That's also why I went online to check if I was missing something, and guess what? Many people were confused. A lot of them. It's just super unusual to finish the game's campaign in such a way. It feels as though you've played an alpha version and some content is to be added later. It just ceases, it stops, that's it. So yes, Grim Dawn has a terrible story and presentation. I mean, it is bad. But if you can look past that, you will find that both the gameplay and the character progression are quite fun. It has its own share of problems, but it also does a lot of stuff right, and dare I say better than the king of hack and slash, Diablo. I didn't encounter any bugs, and the game only crashed a few times in the 90 hours I spent playing it. That's not bad at all. I've had crashes in Diablo 2, more so than in Grim Dawn, and many of them server related. It has huge maps, a great variety of enemies, and generally a ton of content that will keep you playing for weeks. So while it does have some issues, I can still recommend it to anyone who likes such games. This is where I want to thank you for watching my video. I hope I managed to entertain you with it. If you wish to support my channel, please take a look at my Patreon link in the description of this video. It would make me very happy if you returned for more. Until then, have a great day.